Hi and welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about copying a file. And we're going to do so with a small exercise. What I've done is, still in my project, just to keep things simple, I've created a new Python file called friends.py, and throughout this project we're going to be running this file. I've also created two text files, nearbyfriends.txt and people.txt. Inside people.txt, you can write a bunch of names. I'm going to go with the staples of teclado, starting with Rolf, of course, and getting some Charlies in there. And these people are just people that are somewhere near you, let's say. Inside our friends.py file, now we're going to write a short program that is going to first ask the user for a list of 3 friends. Then, for each friend, we're going to tell the user whether they are in the same city. And finally, for each friend that is in the same city, we're going to save them to the nearby friends file. So it has to do 3 things. First, ask the user for 3 friends. You can do this either using the split method of string, or you can ask for 3 distinct friends. That's fine, 3 inputs. Then you'll have to open the people.txt file and read all of the lines. You may, hint, read lines. Read lines could be interesting for this exercise. I'd recommend that you Google it and see what you can find. But of course, we're going to implement this in the project in just a moment. So you want to read all of the lines in people, and that's going to give you a list of strings, a string per line. That's the friends, or rather, that's the people nearby. Then we're going to compare the people in that file with the friends that the user entered. If the friend is amongst those people, we're going to tell the user and also put them into this file. So we're effectively copying the people file into the nearby friends file selectively, allowing the user to choose which friends they want to copy. So I'd advise now, I know that this is a larger undertaking than we've done previously, and I don't necessarily expect you to be able to do this right off the bat. However, by building projects and by struggling a little bit, that is the best way to learn and to really get familiar with the research that you have to do in order to become proficient at programming. So I'd encourage you to pause the video, give it a go for maybe 20 or 30 minutes, and then come back and we will continue implementing this project here, and I'll explain all the choices that I'm making in order to get it to work. Let's go for it. Okay, I'm sure that you at least got some place with this project. I am confident that you've managed to do some of the things here, if not all of them. Now, if you do have any trouble on things that you're not really sure of, feel free to ask in the course Q&A before watching this, and I'll be glad to help you in order to solve any doubts you have as your own research. But once you're ready, we can continue and complete this project here. The first thing to do is to ask the user for a list of 3 friends. So for this, I'm going to use the input function, of course, and I'm going to say enter 3 friend names separated by commas. No spaces, please. Now, these friend names are going to be something like Rolf, Jose, Charlie. Something like this is what the user is going to enter. So this is going to be a string that has 3 friend names separated by commas. And whenever you have a string that has a separator in it, like the comma in this case, you can do .split. And what this does is, instead of a string with 2 commas and 3 names, it's going to give you something that looks like this. That's a list of 3 elements. Notice how the commas are now gone, they are part of the list, and instead the elements are made up into a list of individual names. That's what this split method does. I'm not sure if we've looked at that one before, but nonetheless, that's how you can split a string into multiple constituent parts. Of course, if you had asked friend 1 and said input enter your first friend, That's totally cool. That is the way that I would expect you to do it if you didn't know about this split method. And that's okay. Now that we've got a list of friends, and of course, if you did ask for friend 1, friend 2, friend 3, then I would expect you at some point to have created a list of friend 1, friend 2, and friend 3. That way, you would have a list of friends as opposed to 3 independent variables. This would be a great way to do it without the split function. The split method, sorry. Now that we've got a list of friends though, we can open people.txt and read it so that we know the people that are nearby. So again, we're going to open people.txt in read mode, of course, because we are just reading it. We're not going to write to this file, we're going to write to the other file. And then we're going to look for the people who are in the same city or people that are nearby. People nearby is going to be file or people dot read lines. The read lines method that I suggested as a hint earlier on is essentially just going to read the file but giving you a list of line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, which is a pretty handy way of reading a file, especially because we've got one friend per file, one friend per line in our data file. So that's a good way to go about it. And if through your research you didn't quite find this method, that's totally fine. I'm sure that at that point, if you couldn't find that method, that was the point where you thought, I need to keep watching this. And that's totally fine. Of course, I don't expect you to know everything about files when we haven't even covered it yet. But nonetheless, it's always good to do some research. Even if you don't find anything, it's good to train yourself to do that. And at the end, of course, we're going